All right, good morning, everyone. It is 10:45 here. We are back on the lead format. It's been a while since we've been together. August 7th, I believe, was our last meeting here. And hard to believe that we're entering into section play here for our fall sports. Thank you to all of you for what you continue to do and stay dry here with this weather that's moving in, or it's already there in the south with the games that we have left to play. Also note that we have a lengthy update that will be going out later today. A lot of that is due just to really good information and with the break next week with MEA, getting that out this week as well. Great attendance at our area meetings. So appreciative of all of you and your work and information you were able to share back with us and gather at our area meetings. Our agenda for this week was assisted by our liaisons. They continue to do great work. I'm not going to read the agenda to you, but we will be covering these topics here today with many of our staff. So again, thank you for being here live here today. And also for those that may be watching the recording, we appreciate you, your attendance as well. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Eric to update us on all things from our board meeting and a recap from area meetings as well. Eric.
We'll go ahead and unmute and get started. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for making time in your day to be with us or take time after the fact to watch the recording. Really important. We've had a really good fall, and from our staff perspective, the area meetings are just one of the highlights of our opportunity to interact with you, to share some information. And again, we focused a lot this year on trying to have dialogue on different concepts. And you'll see what some of the board meeting action items coming through here in the next couple slides. But some of the important topics that we talked about have reached well beyond you and have gotten back to our board, and we've talked about those. As well as you see, MASA conference had time with the superintendents this past Monday and Tuesday to talk with them a bit about the activities world. And so things like regional representation in state tournaments is moving forward. We anticipate action by our board to add that into the belief statements and focus on making sure that our regions are all represented in state participation. We've talked a lot about educational settings, the dynamics of online education, homeschools, and eligibility. We continue with work in that space and will probably do so for quite some time, both at the Department of Ed as well as with our schools. And obviously our superintendents had great interest in that as well. We continue to explore ninth grade governance and what that might mean, next steps within that, and where we go. Lots of support from you as ADs saying, let's take a real hard look at if now is a time for us to consider adding ninth grade in. And then, as we know, event management and safety is always front and foremost for you on a daily and weekly basis. It's also that way for your superintendents. I want to make sure and make note that our superintendents also heard a real strong message from the league on the value and the importance of support for the work that you do as ADs and the systems that need to be in place to make this job sustainable and be able to do what you need to do. And so those are some of the discussion items that continue forward. Again, as I mentioned, a number of action items, and we'll get started on the action items with our activity advisory proposals from this spring. We'll go to the next slide, and I'll turn it over to Lisa Quid now.
And thank you, Eric. It's great to see everybody today. Softball was approved for a third day of the state tournament, and this will be implemented for the 2024 state tournament. The outcome of this goal was additional greater flexibility with days and when we have weather issues as well as graduation conflicts. Also to highlight our championship state tournament softball games, and they will have a day to do that. The schedule is going to be out soon, and the dates are actually updated and reflected on our website. So it will be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday tournament with a rain day on Saturday. And we are really looking forward to the improvement and excitement that this will bring for the girls softball tournament. At this time, I will send it to Charlie.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. The Board of Directors also approved two proposals that will take effect this spring in track and field. The board approved the addition of the 400-meter race to the track event offerings in the wheelchair division for both regular and postseason competition. This change really allows our wheelchair sprinters the opportunity to compete in 3 sprint events, the 100, 200, and now the 400 meters. Distance racers will continue to have the ability to choose up to 3 events, the 800 meters, the 1600 meters, and the 3200 meter races. The board also approved a change to the qualifying standards for advancement to the state meet. The qualifying standards for each event will now be calculated using the previous 3-year average of 9th place at the state meet. Where there are preliminary marks, we will use the 9th place marks in those prelim events. We are currently updating the standards now, and it is our intention to have those posted for coaches and ADs in your dashboard by MEA break next week. In speech, we adopted the 23-24 rules book. Changes for speech include tiebreaker, further defining props, and how to use citations on visual aids. So a busy board meeting in terms of advisory proposals, and I'll turn it over to Bob.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that, Charlie. Reminder that those are spring activity advisory proposals. Fall are due this October 15th. You'll hear more about those as they come in. And then also another action item here was the season for boys volleyball. Back to you here, Lisa. Lisa, we'll need you to unmute, please. We're not going to lead Rust off here.
Right.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yep, thanks, Bob. And the boys volleyball the board of directors approved the boys volleyball task force's recommendation to continue boys volleyball as a spring sport. And some details on that is that the registration for the 23-24 season will be an emerging sport registration. So Minnesota State High School League member schools that register with the league will be granted access to participate in the postseason tournament, as well as have their registrants covered under the catastrophic and concussion insurance offered by the league. The schools who are not sure if they've registered, there's some details in the update to date that will walk you through that process. All schools for the 23-24 season must also register with the Minnesota Boys High School Volleyball Association, as they will be doing much of the scheduling in that piece of the season this year. Next steps for the 24-25 season will be to convene a coaches association advisory committee, as well as look at competitive section placement, and working with recommendations from the advisory association on season and calendar information. And that will be coming forth to the board and then out to our member schools soon. So at this time, Bob, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. And we continue to move forward with boys volleyball. Lisa, thanks for your work with that task force. And many of you on here also participated. So thank you to our member schools and our ADs who did participate on that task force. One last action item to note was seeding. We know there is an appetite to seed differently than we currently had. This is a busy slide, and that was done so intentionally for those that would like to come back and look at it. What you really need to know from what took place on proposals for seeding is that this will go into place and into effect next year. Our sport activities groups will have the opportunity to propose how they would like to seed in the 24-25 school year. There are 3 options. You can continue to move forward with the 1 through 5 with a 6, 7, 8 random draw, and or you could seed all teams. And the reason it doesn't say 1 through 8 would be that, let's say you were to seed in the semifinals, that might be a 1 through 4, so that you would seed all teams within that class of the state tournament. Or you could go back to a regional rotation or a scheduled rotation, much like quarterfinal football is currently doing right now. They do have a proposal in to go back to seeding in the quarterfinals, so you'll hear more about that as well. On the bottom, you're going to note that classes need to seed the same. Boys and girls sports will need to seed the same, and those proposals will come again from our activity advisory groups. We've extended for the fall. You'll see more in a memo that will come out to you on this, but note that this was an action item from our board. We now have more options for seeding starting in the 24-25 school year. Charlie, let's transition here to the great work that was done again by our schools and our students as we head into both together and an opportunity for a state conference coming up. Charlie?
Great, thanks, Bob. During the month of September, the league facilitated 8 regional student meetings with 90 schools and more than 700 students participating. Thank you to all of those that were able to attend. Also, a special thanks and appreciation to our ADs that hosted these workshops at their sites. That partnership with you, the ADs, and our member schools is certainly critical for our success. In these workshops, we spent time working toward an appreciation and respect of our opponents, really understanding that we need opponents for interscholastic competition. Without them, we would be limited to practicing and scrimmaging amongst ourselves. We also spent quality time further defining the behavior expectations that were born out of last year's Together We Make a Difference initiative. We're encouraged and not at all surprised to hear that several schools and conferences are already doing good work in this area, many utilizing the behavior expectations and working in other ways to elevate the student experience in their programs. On the slide here, it features a graphic containing a wheel with 7 gear icons, each one representing one of the behavior expectations. You will see this graphic and hear related messaging throughout our tournaments this year. In addition, we're pleased to share that we've created a graphics toolkit that will allow you as the AD a variety of file types to assist you in the work you're doing locally in your school and community. The variety of file types will allow you to use these graphics in many ways. In digital and printed programs, for example, you could include in presentation slide decks on your stadium or gymnasium video boards, or file types that could be easily printed as posters or banners. Please utilize them. They're there to support and assist you. Laura, can we move on to number 8, please? We're also pleased to announce that the league is working with a national expert in student leadership, along with our student advisory and leadership team, our SALT group, to host a statewide conference. That conference will be held on Wednesday, December 6th at the St. Paul River Center. As we work toward our final agenda, we've established clear outcomes for the students. We want to further develop their leadership skills and their capacity. We will work collaboratively towards safe, more respectful, and inclusive environments and activities in athletics. And students will leave encouraged and inspired to positively impact their school and community. One unique aspect that we are planning for in this conference is providing some learning opportunities for our ADs and chaperones alongside the students. And so we're excited for that. Registration is going to happen through your dashboard. It will be due Friday, November 3rd. That allows us plenty of time to plan for our final numbers. And for you, I think the message is to begin to to identify up to 12 students that really represent your league-sponsored programming and make plans to attend. Registration information and more information will be included in today's update. Bob, I'm going to turn it back to you after that lengthy 2-slide presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charlie. Great job by you and Lisa. Very rewarding to see our schools and our conferences in many cases implementing those behavior expectations, get those students to St. Paul for that state conference, and we'll continue that work in that area of utilizing our students and hearing what they have to say about what the sports and activities they participate in. On to uniforms and modifications. Again, I have a rule of 3 here in the office. If I start to hear this more than 3 times, it's many more that have that question. So for our new ADs, relatively new coaches, please know that football uniforms, those rule changes are going into effect next season, and those numbers need to clearly contrast from the body of that jersey. That information is found in the rules book for next year, or will be found there for next year, but also on your dashboards in the rules meetings. This has been a 3-year transition. This should not be new information, yet it feels like it is. And also just a reminder, when we look at uniforms or purchasing of uniforms, even if your boosters are involved in that process, those are your uniforms, right? Those need to be in your colors, okay? There is a document that is located under resources as well regarding special recognitions or commemorative types of events that may happen within uniforms. Again, they should not be in anything other than your school colors. All right, they should be approved through you. Things like accessories are options, but no pink uniforms, no purple uniforms as we head into this winter season, unless those are part of your school colors. At this time, I'm gonna continue to talk about success in the winter season, and Phil's gonna lead us in that conversation. Phil?
Thanks a lot, Bob, and good to see everybody here and getting lead meetings kicked off again. As we're already in the meat of fall and starting to work towards our postseason, everyone's got winter season on their mind, and so we're going to drop a couple of things here to help get you prepared and keep these aspects in mind. So talking a little bit about coaches meetings, preseason meetings with coaches and your community. These are just great opportunities for you to have some FaceTime and touch points with those people that are parents in your programs. And I think those relationships will really come in handy in times when you're navigating issues, whether it's good or bad. Those are great relationships to have and build. And anytime you can get in front of those folks and build some relationship, you're going to be working towards the good there. Another aspect to look into and to keep on your radar is your coach and your student eligibility. And we've got a couple of different scenarios listed on this slide that's got quite a bit of information on it, but a few that I'll hit on is your transfers. Making sure if you've got some open things in the transfer portal, maybe because they weren't a fall athlete and maybe time got away from you or whatever, make sure that you're getting back into that transfer portal and cleaning up anything that is not clearly done, especially with your winter athletes before things get going there. Violations on that aspect of just making sure that if there's any carryover, any violations have been fulfilled, and that your students and their families are aware of them. Students, families, and coaches are aware of those if they've got to get those met. Sports registration and getting that completed is an obvious one. And one that's not on here that I just wanted to bring up is the sports qualifying physicals, making sure that those kids are within that window of the sports qualifying physicals being accurate and up to date. A couple of the bigger pieces on this slide as you're moving further down is your head coach's CERs. The state statute that drives the head coaches courses is still a big piece of that. And the head coaches courses can be found on the dashboard. And there's actually a list of virtual and in-person meetings where that can be met for your new head coaches that haven't done that in the past. And then you've got your CERs and your annual coaching requirements. And just a reminder, there are 4 of those that are along the lines of mental health, concussion, DEIB, and then our inside out coaching. Those are required. And then there's an elective module around mental health, since that's been such a big topic as of late. So there's an elective in there that you can use as well, that are all videos with new content in them, older topics with the concussion and things like that, but new content in those videos, which will be good for that, relaying that information. As we slide down into event management and risk minimization, we'll stay right there. Thanks, Laura. Big things here are create a plan and then work that plan and communicate big with the people that are part of that plan. And there's a lot of stakeholders involved in you creating your plans for your school or your school district. But know that you're not alone, and you've got an admin team or you've got other support people that can help implement that plan. Charlie talked a little bit about the work that was done by Together in Partnership. Together and we make a difference, and then Together in Partnership and our SALT groups, but creating of the behavior expectations, and those are located on the handbook page, handbook and governance page, and you can get that and use that. These are things that were made for kids by kids, and it's a great resource for you to use to kind of set some standards and give some examples that are used across the state. And then finally, kind of rounding out here on the risk minimization side of things, this gets into more emergency action plans and things along that line for the unexpected. And a phrase that I heard this morning that I coined to this would be really, really applicable is be proactive, so that when you have to be reactive, your team can act fast and smooth. And so being proactive in your emergency action plans for your different sites and your different facilities, and then communicating that to your folks that are going to be working those, so that they're confident in what they're doing when an emergency does happen. And we talked about that in our area meetings. And there's some good information in there. And we also have a video that can be shared if you want to send an email over to us and request that. Just go ahead, Laura. So there's been some talk quite a bit actually on captain's practices and open gyms as we're starting to get the winter seasons going. And just a few things here. This all kind of falls under the guise of spontaneous recreation in our handbook and bylaws. And at the end of the day, coaches are not allowed, even if they're just in a supervisory role, they're not allowed there at captain's practices. These are designed to be ran by the kids for physical conditioning and to get them ready to go to your practices that will happen once the actual season starts. And the open gym aspect, again, underneath spontaneous recreation, this should be open to multiple activities in that space. There should be open to all students. There should be no requirements, and there shouldn't be coaching going on there. This isn't a time for basketball to lock down the gym and have non-school personnel there coaching or teaching kids. The open gym, very similar to captain's practices, is spontaneous recreation. Before I turn it over to Eric, Bob, is there anything that you want to add to captain's practice and open gyms? I know you've had a lot of conversations in the last weeks about this.
Yeah, no, very good, Phil. And just know this language, know the difference between the two. There cannot be coaching at either of these. You should be aware of these in your office, but should not be administering them. And this is a bylaw we continue to look at as our students continue to utilize opportunities, I think, outside of their season. But let's not start that winter season with any bylaw violations if possible. Phil, if that's okay, I'm going to turn it right over to Eric here to talk about foundation and dollars that are available to you. Eric.
Thanks, Bob. As we talk about the foundation, the good news when you think about foundation, oftentimes you're thinking people are looking for donations. This is exactly the opposite. We're looking to try to make sure your schools get access to this. So as you think about different aspects of this meeting, this would be one of those on the checklist you're going to see, but also on your to-do list to get going on providing the information that's necessary. Our foundation, again, is funded by state tax dollars on our state and the section tournaments. And this year, we have over $1.1 million to allocate back to our member schools. There are two different applications. There is a Form A grant that is based on the number of free and reduced students that are participating in your activities in your school. So a really straightforward grant based on the numbers that you provide, and it's a prorated amount that goes back to our member schools. Secondarily, the Form B grant is focused on training, leadership, character, etc., those kinds of regional and or conference leadership opportunities that you provide for students, as well as maybe coaches or administrators in your area, but also on health and safety. And many of you have taken advantage of this for AEDs in the past. Again, with the rejuvenation of Anyone Can Save a Life and that focus on health and safety, be thinking about what you might do to provide a grant. A couple key pieces here that you're going to want to make note of. This does take approval by your board of directors at your school or your governance board, whoever that might be. So make sure that you have that kind of scheduled out so you can get that approval on a consent agenda or even talk directly to them about these grant applications. And then use our foundation website. You can see very simple link here, mshslfoundation.org. And the big piece here is that unlike previous years, our foundation said, let's not wait to get dollars out on Form B until later. Let's do it at the same time as we do Form A. So both grant applications are due now. The deadline is November 15th, but now is the time to get started on that so we can put those $1.1 million back to work in your schools, your conference, or your region. So with that, Bob, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, very good, Eric. Take advantage of those dollars through the application and make sure you know when those are due. At this time, we're going to start to work towards the end here and back to Phil with quick takes.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. So quick takes, couple of things to take coming out of this meeting for you. Assigning your winter coaches using the roster tool. So under program management on your dashboard, there's a coaches roster tool. And this is where you can actually assign your coaches to their sports and their activities. And so what is important about this is when you assign that coach, then they are sent or given access to the proper sport specific modules so that they can complete those. And then also that gives us the directory that information feeds into our directories for section and state communications. So assigning your coaches using that roster tool is a big deal for you moving forward. Our winter sports and activities rule modules, I just checked before this meeting, and we've got 2 of those that are open right now. We've got dance and 1-act play, and all of our other winter sports will be following here shortly. Recording your fall participation numbers. Laugh a little bit about that, but on your dashboard under 23 and 24 participation number submission, there's a form there that you can actually track throughout the entire school year. We asked for those numbers in May, but I know many people don't want to get bogged down in May, as the spring can be a really busy time and like to track as the year goes on. So you can use that tool in the dashboard right now to track as the years go, and that's under your MSHSL resources, kind of on the right side down on your dashboard page. And so Fine Arts Judge Search is now available on your dashboard as well. So kind of falling in line with the other official search tools that we've made available in the last year or so. You've got access to a directory that pulls directly from Arbiter, and all 5 of the fine arts are represented there. And once you click on it, you can actually filter a little bit based on what your requirements are, whether it's zip code or area or anything like that. So, and then lastly here, we've got our postseason rosters and coaches completing their education, numbers of players on rosters. I'm not going to get into the entirety of this, but at the end of the day, make sure that you're familiar with your coaching roster, your players roster, and any managers, and what that looks like for each one of your sports that you're going to be sending off into section and state tournament play. That'll help out a lot with when you're going through the gears between those 2 different postseason tournament events. Laura?
Thanks, Phil. Moving on to checklist to wrap up today, a number of items to make sure that you have accomplished as you move through the next few weeks. Number 1, as Eric said, make sure that you're working on those MSHSL Foundation applications. That money is there to give back to your school sections and regions. As we move toward winter, again, that reminder to make sure that all of your students are fully registered and eligible. The reminder from Phil to make sure that your coaches and your fine arts advisors all have accounts on the website. They're members of your school. They have the right coaching role that gets them into all the right spots. Continue to monitor the coaches' requirements of each of your coaches using your CER report. Fall should have been done, but as you move towards section play, giving that a double check. And winter, as your coaches are beginning and getting those rules meetings released to them. The reminder from Lisa's slide, if your school will have a boys volleyball team in spring 2024, that is this school year, ensure that they are registered with the State High School League as well as the Boys Volleyball Association to be ready for play this spring. If you attended an area meeting and want the CEUs from those are available to download from your dashboard. They're underneath resources over on the right-hand side on the area meeting page. And then a few things that if these apply to you, if you have head coaches that you've hired that do not meet that head coaching certification statute, make sure that you get them registered for a head coaching course. And you as an AD, if you have not met that requirement of the AD version of the head coaching course, there are some options coming up for that. Also, those will be listed in the update. That is a required piece within your first 3 years of being an AD. Bob, I'm going to turn it back to you. I believe there are a few questions that have come up and that you can address.
Yeah, very good. Thank you again, Laura. And we're going to wrap up here. One question that did come in that I'm aware of on December 6th with our Together in Partnership, the statewide conference. That time is from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m., I believe. Look for more information coming out on that as well. Again, take a look at the update that will be coming out later today with details, lengthy update again that you'll utilize. Otherwise, it is just about 11:15. We will conclude lead here for this week. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday, well into our winter season on November 2nd. Stay dry today. Have a great end of your week, and we'll see you in November. Thank you.